Are you thinking about buying a new construction home in the Venice, Florida area with a new construction homebuyer rebate? I'm Megan Hess, broker owner of Venice Realty, and I'd like to tell you a story about one of my clients, Peter. So Peter lived in Chicago and he wanted to retire to Florida. In order to buy a new home, Peter had to first sell his home in Chicago. During a conversation with his real estate broker who was helping him sell his Chicago home, the broker said to Peter, before you start looking to buy a home in Florida, make sure the real estate agent you work with offers you a real estate rebate. What's a real estate rebate? Peter asked. Well, basically, it's when they give you a portion of their real estate commission. Now, Peter worked as an accountant at a bank, and experience taught him to be very careful with his financial dealings and make sure that everything was above board and legal. So Peter asked his broker, are rebates legal? And his broker explained that this varied from state to state, but yes, in Florida, when handled properly, real estate rebates were legal. And Peter thanked his broker for this information. So Peter wanted to live in Venice, Florida, and he knew that he wanted to buy a new construction home in a community where all the homes were new. So Peter got online and did a Google search for Venice, Florida new home rebate. And here's the result that Peter got from Google. Peter learned two things from his search. One, that a company called Venice Realty provides a new construction homebuyer rebate in Venice, Florida. And he had a link to Venice Realty's website, venicerealty.com. Peter promptly clicked the link for venicerealty.com and took a look at the website. He spent a few minutes reading and clicking links on this website. As an accountant, Peter, by nature, was a very cautious person, extremely cautious. The website told Peter how to get started working with Venice Realty and that he needed to take a 60-second quiz to get started before talking with anyone at a new home community. Megan Hess, the broker for Venice Realty, had to formally introduce him and register him as a client for Venice Realty. As I said, Peter was very old school careful with anything having to do with his money. So rather than push any buttons or links to start working with Venice Realty, what do you suppose he did? That's right, Peter looked for the contact information for Venice Realty, and he saw there was a phone number and an email address. So what did old school Peter do? Well, he picked up his phone and called the number for Venice Realty and left a voicemail with his name and phone number saying that he wanted to buy a new home in Venice and learn more about the rebate that Venice Realty offered. So as soon as I listened to Peter's voicemail message, I returned his call. Even though we had to play phone tag a few times, we eventually connected on the phone. So Peter asked me his questions about different communities in Venice and about my new home rebate. I answered Peter's questions and we shared a little personal information about ourselves. For example, I told Peter that I had lived in Venice since 1990 and that I formed Venice Realty with my mom in 2001 and that I really love Venice. Both Peter and I could tell from our conversation that this seemed like a good fit between us, that he was for what he was looking for and what I could do to help him. And then Peter said, so what do I have to do to get started? Peter had already said how his real estate broker in Chicago had told him to find somebody in Florida who offered a rebate. And he also told me that he had been to our website and that's how he got our number. So I said, well, Peter, the next thing you need to do is to take a 60-second quiz on our website so we can have some information that will help me introduce you to new community builder reps. And then spend some time getting familiar with our website and use our website to learn more about the new home communities where we offer a rebate. Just make absolutely sure that if you contact anyone or visit any communities, if you visit the builder sites, that you don't give out your personal information unless I can provide your information first, or you might not qualify for my rebate. So what do you think Peter did? Well, being the no-nonsense kind of man he is, Peter followed my instructions to the letter. He took the quiz and he used our website to narrow down the communities to his top 3 communities that interested him. Then he told me that he and his wife planned to visit the Venice area and that they could visit 3 communities. I registered Peter at those 3 communities that interested him and gave him the contact information for the builder reps at each community. And by now, we had moved beyond using the phone and sending email messages, or we started using text messages. So Peter and his wife, Juliana, made appointments with the 3 builder reps and met with them and toured the communities. And then they picked a home and they worked out all the details and the contract, and Venice Realty made sure that Venice Realty was listed as the broker. So the sales rep for the community where Peter and Juliana were buying their home provided a copy of the contract to Venice Realty, and they told me that the actual commissionable purchase price for their home, they told me that, so I knew what the commission would be. Then I sent Peter and his wife a letter with an estimate for what Venice Realty's new construction homebuyer rebate would be. And then they waited for their home to be built. When Peter and Juliana came down to Florida to close on their new home, their settlement statement indicated that their $600,000 home purchase provided 3% commission to Venice Realty, which is $18,000. And then Venice Realty was giving them a $12,000 rebate to be applied toward their closing costs. So on closing day, Peter noticed that the closing costs were less than the rebate amount. So Peter contacted me to confirm what I had explained to him earlier, which was that if the closing costs are less than the rebate, I would send him a check for the difference after closing. A week after Peter and Juliana took possession of their home, my commission check for the sale of their home had been cleared from our bank, and they had a check for the balance of their 2% rebate. So Peter sent me an email to say that they had received the check along with the note, thank you note, and his promise to tell others about Venice Realty and our new home rebate. A year later, Peter sent me another email to tell me how much they loved their new home and that they had met some wonderful neighbors, and that every time someone asked him about buying a new home, he remembered with gratitude the advice his broker back in Chicago had given him. And he decided to pay it forward and make sure he told others about the rebate if they bought a new construction home. And he gave me the best kind of compliment he could. He said, I always tell them they would be making a big mistake if they bought without getting a rebate, and the biggest mistake of all if they didn't use Venice Realty. Thank you, Peter, and thank you for letting me share your story.